Hey everybody, we are in a slightly different location for Blended Agenda today. As you can see, the beautiful aesthetic of Cape Town, the Table Bay Harbour there, Lion's Head is what you're looking at now. And there's, of course, our iconic Table Mountain right there. We thought we'd bring you outside today for our conversation about the challenges that especially men face in blended family scenarios. So I thought today I'll get somebody to come and join us who's both a relationship expert but also deals with education, especially young minds, deals with youngsters and kids, so we can get a bit of an insight around that particular topic about how kids maybe deal with this, especially if they're being parented by a step-parent, especially a step-dad, but also just to get an insight. She's been doing this for a long time, talking about relationships and how to get the best adults out of your kids eventually. Mandy Herold is her name. Mandy, thanks for joining me. I'm sure you have a lot of stuff that you could potentially say about this, but we know, just anecdotally even, that stepdads have a tough time. They have a rough time when they enter a blended scenario with children that are not biologically theirs. Just observations. What do you think?
Firstly, I just wanted to say thank you for inviting me here, and thank you for having the courage to speak about the subject matter that I don't believe that we as a society, as parents, as educators, I don't believe that we give it enough airtime. And so my experience is that I got divorced from my children's dad when they were very little. So they were 3 and 1, and I was a single mom for a while. And then when they were 5 and 7, I call him my current husband. I had a practice husband. Practice husband sounds better than ex-husband. And then Gareth and I got together when they were 5 and 7, and we've been together for the last 10 years. So,
blunt question, and I think this is really the crux of some of the problems. Ladies, with my apologies, the crux of some of the challenges men face is, and I'll pose the question to you in as blunt a way as possible. Were you able to butt out while he was parenting your kids?
Sure. That is a great question. I don't know that it's a black and white answer, like yes or no. I have really, and all credit to him, Bobby. He has been the most amazing stepdad in that he's never tried to be the children's dad. He's always said, you've got a dad, and I'm not your dad. And I think that for him, he's felt supported by me in that I really have tried not to get involved with their relationship.
That's wonderful. Another tricky, I think, dynamic is in this question: how does Gareth, your current husband, get along with your practice husband?
So that's a great question. Actually, they've always been very respectful of each other. I think that we've co-parented fairly successfully over many years, and now to the point where our children are a little bit older. They're 15 and 17, a daughter in grade 9 and a son in matric. And now a few weeks ago, I was actually out of town, and my current husband and my practice husband were sitting next to each other on the side of the hockey field.
Wow.
So, yeah, I think that, again, credit to Gareth, because he's just been very respectful and really hasn't got involved. There were some times where I was like, could you speak to the ex-husband for me on my behalf? And he just said, it's not my place.
Probably the best way to do it. I quite like the image of the two of them next to each other, and I've told the story before. I think part of the respect I have for exes, generally speaking, comes from a story that I observed many years ago of an ex-husband who wasn't a particularly nice fellow. From my friend who was his wife at the time, told me some stories that were very unpleasant about him, but he'd grown up and he'd become a better person, I think, through his own efforts. And him and her then current husband were best buddies, golfing buddies at some point. And to be able to see that, just getting along with your ex and your current person, getting along with your ex, I think is probably the best case scenario for everybody involved, but especially for the kids.
Yeah. I want to share a quick story. So with our son being in matric and with going through the matric dance and several assemblies, we were having dinner together at one of these events, and my children's dad sort of leant over and shook Garrett's hand and just said, thank you for being the most amazing role model, and thank you for being this stable influence for our children. And so, yeah, Bobby, there's a reason why we're not together. But I honestly think that for us as moms, your blunt question, were you able to butt out? As moms, we really need to not micromanage. We honestly, the only person that we can be responsible for is ourselves.
Is it fair commentary to say that, in your opinion, when you interject into the relationship between your partner and his stepkids, i.e. your own kids, that you actually send a message to your kids that what he's saying or what he's doing is not correct and needs to be questioned, and then you leave almost psychology there, some sort of psychosis almost with the kids, that everything he instructs you with should be questioned. Is that a fair commentary?
100% fair commentary. What happens is that you undermine that other person. So if you liken that example to even the way a parent would speak about a school. So say my children are going to this school, and then all of a sudden I'm speaking badly about the teachers or the school leadership or the curriculum. I'm undermining that process. And it's exactly the same when moms disagree with in front of a stepdad, regardless of the age of the children feel this disconnect. So I'm not saying that we're all happy families and we sing kumbaya. We can disagree graciously. That's a conversation ideally that parents need to have. Co-parenting, stepchildren need to, as much as possible, be on the same page and let the little stuff go.
I know it's sort of an ideal utopia, but I always imagine the scenario where, and I say to my partner, and I'm a stepdad to her kid, and she was a stepmom to one of my kids, and we've got our, what you call the glue, our own in between. And I've always said, wouldn't it be an ideal, wonderful scenario if you could occasionally have some sort of, call it lunch, if you will, with your ex-partner, just to connect about your kids and about having some sort of commonality between the homes if they travel between the homes, and your co-parenting scenario, and have the current partners not be part of that conversation. Because I think that's important and people get jealous about this, and really just practically, it's really quite silly, I think, because your partner was married to that person at some point, right? And they've left them and they don't want to be with them anymore for whatever reason. And they've seen them naked and they've done all the freaky things with them that you are fantasizing about. It's probably never going to happen again. There's nothing to be jealous about.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think first prize is that you have regular family meetings and you talk about the practicalities, because children get very anxious about living in two homes. It doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't matter if you do every second weekend, every second week, alternate Wednesdays. It's hard. Living in two homes for children is hard. So to have parents working together, whether it's like a monthly meeting or every 2 or 3 months, sitting down together and saying, right, what's working, what's not working, and giving the children a voice, like that's best case scenario.
I think that's the tough part. I think, especially older parents, they park that idea for a moment. What I want to say is I think we get so wrapped up in our own failure, if you like, the marriage has not worked and the things that we want out of life, that we forget we have these little human beings that have been entrusted to us, and we need to ultimately, our life's decisions need to impact them in some positive way, the best positive way, and set our own adult trivialities, apologies, aside if we can.
I often call it the hypocrisy of parenting, Bobby. I feel like parents largely, and again, no judgment intended, because I really believe that everybody is doing the best that they can with the skills they believe they've got access to. But parents, a lot of the time, I'm not going to say all of the time, but work from the do as I say, not as I do model.
Yep.
And
especially my generation.
Yeah. And children see through that. They don't want to have this message of, when they question or they ask, because I said so. They want to engage. And I think that, and this is probably a conversation for another day, but that like authoritarian, my way or the highway. Parents know nowadays that they don't necessarily want to do that, but they've almost swung the other way to the permissive parenting that is more destructive for children than that my way or the highway.
I find also, and this is an aside, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. I find often that, and my experience is only with single moms, because I think single dads do this a little bit differently. I think we become almost more disciplinarian when we parent as single parents, the dads. And I suspect from what I've seen, moms almost become more permissive because there's a bit of a guilty conscience involved with dad not being around.
That you are spot on, Bobby. And it's an encouragement for single moms listening to this conversation that you don't have to compensate for your co-parent. Like, you do what you believe is right in terms of boundaries, in terms of saying no, in terms of following through for consequences. I think that it's an issue.
Let's delve a little bit, because it's for men, about men. So let's talk about men. My big concern has always been men who step into the role of stepdads, especially in situations where the mom has been single parenting for a long time. And the anxiety and the stress and the emotional trauma that builds up over time that come out in extremely destructive, rageful ways over time. And we've seen that, I think, play out in so many different ways. The extreme on the one side is packing his bags and leaving after time, after the kids have gotten attached to him. And the other extreme is violence, just extreme violence for men who are unable to self-regulate. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, firstly, I think that everybody should be in therapy permanently. My husband, Gareth, has walked a journey with his own mental health. And after suffering burnout and having anxiety and depression and suicidal ideations, he only started having therapy and is just recently turned 50. So I know that it may not be accessible for everyone, Bobby, and it might not be a therapist, but I would really love to normalize the conversation around mental health, around being able to say I'm not okay, around being able to express our emotions in healthy ways, because we know exactly what you just said. If you're not able to do that, it builds and builds and builds, and then you get the explosion.
It's hard for men, though. It's hard for men to admit they're not coping. It's hard for them to admit it to their female partners. It's even harder for them to admit it to other men, strangely. Because I know there's this conversation where people are saying men should be that therapy to other men. But it's very difficult for a man who has this facade of capability, say, to admit that he's not coping.
Where do you think that comes from?
Other men, I imagine. I think we live in this society where there's this fierce competition to be okay, and I mean that in every respect. To be okay financially, to be okay emotionally, to be doing well, that you're almost losing the race in a way. Or there's this appearance of losing the race when you call somebody over and say, I need to talk, I'm not doing okay.
Sure. I do also think that it's a generational narrative that has been perpetuated. The big toxic masculinity, big boys don't cry like a girl, don't scream like a girl, don't throw like a girl. And I know certainly I'm not a male or a dad, but my parents said, if you want something done properly, do it yourself. What's the underlying narrative? You can't ask for help. Vulnerability is weakness. And so, yes, I'm hearing what you're saying, and sure, I'm just taking a deep breath.
It's a tough one because it's almost this cataclysm, this catastrophe waiting to happen in a way, because it's tough for everybody at the moment. Economically, it's tough for everybody, and that spills over into our emotions because, if you're missing a bill or missing two bills, if you can't quite meet your payments for school fee, whatever it may be, right? That spills over into the way your relationship is going, say if it's already under stress. So it's a tough environment globally at the moment for everybody. But because of the self-imposed pressure that men live under, I think it's particularly hard for men, and place that man in a blended family scenario, and you've got a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it's really tough.
What do we do, Mandy? You deal with relationships. What would you say to a man currently who's sitting watching this, and he finds himself as a stepdad dealing with challenges in his home that relate to maybe parenting those kids, his partner not necessarily wanting to hear him, maybe he's got a mother-in-law in the house that's adding to the pressure. What do you say to somebody like that?
I would say you're not alone. You're not alone. And the fact that Bobby's opened up the space to have this conversation, find somebody that you trust. It could be a counselor, a coach, a social worker. There's amazing organizations like FAMSA, like the Family Life Center. It could be somebody at your child's school. Don't wait. Don't wait. It's never too late, Bobby. That's what I would say. It's never too late.
And to the lady in this equation who is maybe finding it hard to listen or accept that he is under pressure and near breaking point? I
would say to the ladies listening, it's not about you. I said to my husband for a I don't want to say it was the better part of 18 months. You need to go and speak to someone. And he was like, I'm fine, until he wasn't fine. And so just to the women, I would say, find your tribe and process what you are feeling, and don't project what you are feeling onto your partner.
Somebody said to me the other day that it's kind of noble and I think it was coming from a patriarchal viewpoint, but I take the sentiment anyway. He was saying to me that it's kind of noble for a man who may not have kids of his own to go into a home willingly and be dad to somebody else's kids. And within that nobility lies good intent, I think was the intention. That you have to, firstly, respect a man who does that, and secondly, believe that he has good intentions for your kids. But I do think single moms find that concept hard to embrace fully.
Absolutely, because you think on one level there's a nobility, and on another level, if that person hasn't been a biological father themselves, it's very hard. It's very hard for them to get it on certain levels. I know, and some of the friction that Gareth and I have is that he believes that I'm too soft sometimes, and it's very hard to explain, like, unless you've actually procreated with somebody and you have biological children of your own, that there's this chemical attachment that is hard to understand.
Yeah, I think the distance, there's always a distance if you're not a parent, I think. Just from experience, the times when I wasn't a parent, there's something that you can't quite get and that can't quite be explained to you, I think is what you're saying. There's this kind of thing that parents have. And yes, parents are the permissiveness is almost built in. It's kind of hardwired in, that there are things that your kids will ask of you that somebody else might go, no, you shouldn't give him that you kind of almost want to, in a way, against better judgment even sometimes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would agree with that. Yeah.
Can we talk about the kids a little bit? Because we haven't really touched on that, and I know that's one of your strengths. If kids, and look, I mean, kids are attached to their dads and attached to their moms in different ways. If one of them leaves the home, and the way society is structured these days, it's often the dad who leaves, and he's sort of gone off elsewhere, and another man enters that space 2-3 years later, whatever the case may be. What's the best sort of advice that one can give to a child for somehow managing and digesting this new bit of information?
I often say to parents that if we can just validate our children's feelings, like, it's not your job to happy up your children. It's not your job to fix them and to pave a way for life to be uncomplicated for them. Like, that's not real life. I would say to parents, if you're just able to validate how the child feels, like if it's frustration, if it's overwhelm, if it's sadness, if you can just know, like, one of the mantras, so if you don't take anything else away, this might be something helpful for you. If a child is having a hard time and you are able to say, like, take that deep breath and say, this is happening in front of me, it's not happening to me, because when we are in our emotional states, when we are triggered, we now want to project and say, but when I was a child, I had to do X, Y, Z. It's not about you. It's about your child. And so other thing that I would say, Bobby, is that the research tells us that children actually only need one parent who is completely attached and besotted and invested. And so I think often as moms or as single moms, you want to try and make everybody feel the same way about your children as you do. And again, it's not their stuff. Like, take ownership of what the stories that you are telling yourself, and just really the only person you can be responsible for is yourself.
True. I think another story that I heard some time ago, and really if the kids are watching now, maybe if you want to show them this little bit, you should. One of the most hurtful things you can do to a masculine energy, to a man who's maybe parented you for a long time, say 10 years, and you're now a teenager, 18, 19 years old, and there's that friction, because it will happen. There's a standoff at some point, and one of the most hurtful things you can say to that stepdad is, "You are not my dad, don't tell me." There's almost no coming back from that.
No. Sure.
It's one of those things that cut deep. And I think sometimes because you're a reckless, and I say it with love, a reckless, rebellious teenager, you were looking for the most cutting thing to say in that angry moment. So you might go there. You might go, well, this will teach me. Say, "You're not my dad. Don't tell me. Trust me." Whatever little bit of affection there might have been towards you vanishes in that moment. And the work that you'll have to do to get it back, it's hard.
Sure. Very wise words, Bobby.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I worry, and part of the reason I speak to you is I worry because so many men are suffering in silence. And I speak to them and I encounter them, and they're lost because they genuinely don't know what to do. They've invested in this relationship. There are material possessions, houses, cars, whatever the case may be. And they're emotionally invested because they want to be there. They've made this choice. Maybe it's second or third relationship for both parties. And they really don't want to go anywhere. And they've almost resolved to the misery. They almost said, well, it's going to be this. I might as well just accept it and live with it. And that's probably the best case scenario in a terrible situation, for somebody just to say, well, I'm just going to live with it for the next 10 years, because the other extreme is, not good for anybody.
Yeah. And that extreme of loneliness and not having anybody, it's perhaps the lesser of the two evils. I would just say in that situation, just encourage people to find the strength in the person that you're with. Find things that you can celebrate about them. I'm also a strengths coach, and Don Clifton said, what will happen when we focus on what's right with people instead of fixating on what's wrong with them? And that stream of loneliness and not having anybody, it's perhaps the lesser of the two evils. I would just say in that situation, just encourage people to find the strength in the person that you're with. Find things that you can celebrate about them. I'm also a strengths coach, and Don Clifton said, what will happen when we focus on what's right with people instead of fixating on what's wrong with them? And that takes digging deep, and it's possible if you can celebrate the person, find out what is right with them. So I'll give you a quick example. So there's 34 strengths in the Clifton Strengths assessment, and empathy is number 6 in my profile out of 34. Empathy is number 34 for Gareth. And so that's been such a game changer for us, Bobby, because instead of saying, why isn't this guy doing X, Y, Z? I'm like, he's good at other things. It's been really phenomenal. So, yeah.
That focus on the positive is so important. I'll just finish off with something that I think is perhaps necessary, and I want to just test your response to it. Marriage counseling is encouraged, by the way, if you're going to, plan to spend your life with another human being for any length of time. But I don't see a similar thing, I don't know what to call it, for people who are entering relationships where there are children already that are biologically somebody else's kids.
Yeah.
I think that counseling is more needed.
100%. 100%. It should be called blended family counseling.
Yes.
Yeah. Should be called manage your expectations, decide on what your non-negotiables are. Because again, children, if I come at it from a children point of view, there feels like there's such an imbalance from a power perspective, and children largely feel like they don't have a voice. So if you are then able to bring them into the equation before you get married, I know that Gareth asked Ryan and Robin, well, he asked them if he could marry me, which is also ridiculous because they were like little at the time. But there was a sense of him saying, you know, we are in this together, and we didn't just go on a honeymoon, we went on a family moon. And so 100%, Bobby, where possible, like have some kind of blended family counseling therapy before you get married.
You know, when I was younger, there used to be this thing, and I still believe in it, by the way, young guys, do this, it works. If you're interested in a young lady, win the mom over.
Yes.
You know, spend some time on her mom. The mom likes you, you're in. Yep. So it's really good advice. And I want to extend that to the kids. You know, if you're going to go into the relationship with somebody, I think, I know there's the butterflies and the excitement of maybe this time, maybe it's going to work, and that's wonderful. But I do think you should need to pause and I don't know what the timeline is for this, 3 months, 6 months, a year, if you can, winning over the kids.
100%, Bobby, 100%. And not just being that Father Christmas dad or the hero stepdad, but just really being real with them, like watching them play sport, taking an interest in what they're interested in. I think that's really great advice.
All of Mandy Herold's contact details, what she does, where she does it, I'll put all those contact details in the comments below. Check it out. She is really expert at what she does. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm looking forward to your comments, your suggestions, critiques, if you thought maybe I got the wrong end of the stick. And I really, really wish you guys well out there. And if you're struggling, reach out. We'll see if we can connect you to some help.
Amazing. Thank you.